News then that Kane Williamson has given up his New Zealand cricket contract, still wants to play for his country. How is this going to work? The General Manager of High Performance for New Zealand Cricket is Bryan Stronach. He's online. Bryan, thanks so much for joining us, mate. A couple of things to talk about. Obviously, the T20 World Cup in the West Indies. Let's park that for a second, because the news today that Kane Williamson has opted out of signing a New Zealand cricket contract. How difficult a position is this for you and for everyone at the higher upper echelons in New Zealand cricket? Again, juggling the thing between choosing to play for your country and choosing when not to play for your country.
Cricketing's in a new space, the cricketing world, and there's some amazing opportunities for our players around the world and for us. But at the heart of it, most of our players, or all of our players, still really love playing for their country. So I think there was an old view of if you take your contract, you're committed to your country. If you don't, you're not. We don't see it that way anymore. Kane wants to play for us for a long time. He's got a family, he's got other opportunities and so forth, and we actually see this as a way of him playing for us for longer. So it can definitely work to our advantage as well with a lot of these things, but it's not a black and white system, and it does take a bit to manage, definitely. It's
a black and white system for most of the players, though, isn't it?
No. All the players have the ability, if they've got opportunities, to come to us and work with us around when they take those opportunities, or if not, and the right way to do that. I think the key thing is around them wanting to play for this team and the country, and for how long. That's the negotiations, and then we figure out the right way for them to do that with what sort of contract.
Do certain players get special treatment, though? And we've seen it with Boult, and now we see it with Williamson. And what I mean is that these two guys have been such remarkable servants for New Zealand cricket. So are you prepared to deal with them differently?
Well, I think we're going to treat everyone on a case-by-case basis. And there's no doubt that those two individuals you're talking about have been amazing for New Zealand and have been at the top of their game. Up until these points and things, they've been one of the first picked in those teams. So that helps them with those as we're working through those circumstances. But so I guess in that sense, it's slightly different. But everyone will look at to see how it works for them and it works for us. It's about trying to find the win-win, I think.
Is there a win-win, though, in the way that it ultimately impacts preparation for like, for example, this tournament we've just played in, or for other series? We saw this years ago, 2 or 3, maybe even longer than that, when it first appeared, and I don't know whether you were around in the job then, Bryan, but just bear with me for a second, and Kane Williamson and a couple of other players arrived late in England for a 3-test series against the Poms. Now, we struggle to get 3-test series against anyone, and they were at the IPL. Performances really suffered because they arrived late. We had no warm-up matches with them or anything like that. Is that going to be the norm now? And is that the best thing for the Black Caps? Because you have to look holistically, don't you? What's good for the players is one thing, but surely results for the Black Caps is more important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the bit, because the other side to that is we want to have our best players for as long as we can, because we don't have the depth of talent that some other nations do. But you are right. And at times, and probably looking at this World Cup, we have got that wrong around getting that balance right and creating the win-win. However, I think the win-wins are there. We've just got to find them and do it right. And that is not saying we've got that right all the time. Definitely.
Bryan Stronach is with us. He's the General Manager of High Performance. Frustrating for us fans that, all of us numpties who sit there and go, playing for your country and wearing a silver fern has got to be the ultimate. But I suppose the price to pay for that is now somebody else writes a cheque for a higher price.
Yeah, it can be but that's where I think we've got to use the system to try and create that win-win that I was talking about before. It's an amazing opportunity to set your family up and do things, but also play for your country. And the amount of cricket that gets played out there now, I don't think any one player could play everything. It would just be impossible. So it's about finding the ways to do that. And as I said, we've got to work through this, and sometimes I think we've got it right when you look back, and sometimes I think we've got it wrong. But it's about trying to find that way through, because these players still, on the whole, want to play for their country, and it means so much to them. And the amount of money they get playing for their country compared to playing in these franchise leagues, they sacrifice a lot of money to do that because of their love of playing for their country. But then there is some opportunities that they could cash in around that stuff, but still have the best of both worlds and play for us and do amazingly well for their country.
It has to be a hell of a compromise, doesn't it? I'm not sure that there is a perfect resolution or a solution to this, but what you're actually saying also is that there are certain players who are very special players, and we don't have that depth in New Zealand. And so the compromise you've got to make, I suppose, is what you're saying, is that what do? Do we select 11 rookies who are going to play all their cricket here in New Zealand and forsake the guys that are playing overseas? Or do we try and somehow fit this into a situation which isn't going to be perfect? Am I on the right track?
Yeah. I mean, the last thing we want to do is just be a development system for franchise cricket. And I don't think that's what we are doing. But if we weren't careful, that's what we could turn into. And that means we've got to work through to go, yep, we have to find the right balance of the players who want to put their country first and foremost, and work with us around potentially getting some of those opportunities, which means they'll stick with us for longer, and those that don't want to play for us at all. And I don't think there's too many of the latter, if I'm being really honest with you. It doesn't mean, like I said before, putting our hand up, we've got that right all the time. We definitely haven't. But the good thing is these players want to work with us around that.